Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good middle of the night, and welcome to an Alan and Heath Q session, a Q&A with the QU and A, and Samsand as well. I mean, we really rammed in the branding there on a Q&A. I will answer any questions you might have. I'll do my best anyway. I'll try. The whole idea of this, though, is that if you haven't been to one before, is that we can help you guys out with anything you're having trouble with. We can answer any questions you might have. We can show you how to do a few things and hopefully help you get the best out of your mixer. So if you do have any questions, please pop them in the chat. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. I should also say a little disclaimer. It seems the whole of the UK having weird internet drop in and outs at the moment. I don't know what's going on. It might be one of the big main server places. But if anything does drop out, I will do my best to reconnect. So hang on in there or check back shortly. Cool. Rob Smith, Keith is in the chat and singing. I am always singing. I probably sing too much. My life is a musical. Hi, Jaden. Hi, welcome. And Mike's here as well. Hello. Hello, sir. That looked very cool. I saw your picture of the AHM the other day that you're hooking up as a speaker processor after an SQ. Very cool. Bill is here as well. Hello, hello. And Steve watching from Pakistan. Cool. From Karachi. Awesome. Welcome. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, pop them in. I haven't prepared a lot today. I am going to start off with something which I kind of didn't cover. A few weeks ago, we did one on Studio, and I did one of these sessions looking at general Studio setup and the kind of theory of it for SQ and Q. But I didn't go into a huge amount of step-by-step things. It was more about the theory. So I did want to. Sorry, Rob's commenting on my singing again. I did want to show you quickly a setup with Q32 that I have here with Logic. So I'm going to start with that, but if you have any questions as I go through it, please pop them in. And then there is a question here from GGG that came in before the session on YouTube. So I'm going to try and read it off my phone if I can look at 20 things at once. Again, I'll do my best. So let's start off by having a look at the things that we've got. We've got a Q32. There it is. I should stop singing. And I've got some signal going in. I've just plugged it into channel 12 because it's Q32. It's all the way over to my left, and channel input 12 was closer than input 1. And that's just coming out of the mixer I'm using here to speak to you guys. So I've just got a bit of signal coming from my voice. So if I shut up for a second, you'll see the signal disappears. Beautiful. I also have set up somewhere, if it will load up. See if you guys can see this as well. I've got a Logic session. So the only one in this Logic session is loaded up and added in a bunch of audio tracks. So I've just added in, let's get rid of the bouncy background for a second. What's that one? That'll do. Just realized it'd be bouncing around and then being very long. So I've just added in, I think 24 audio tracks. Doesn't really matter. But other than that, it's a fresh session. I haven't done anything weird or crazy so far. So we touched on some stuff with door control and also audio routing. So the first thing I want to look at is the audio routing. So you can go back. These are all recorded. You can find all the previous sessions, alan-heath.com/events, and all the upcoming sessions as well, of course. But you can go and find recordings there. So if I lose you immediately, it's because I'm kind of picking up where I left off before. So we've got some live signal coming into our mixer. At this point, I'm kind of presuming that you guys are okay with getting signal out to your left-right mix and dealing with inputs and whatnot. It's very simple. Select a channel, do some stuff to it, select a mix output, show sends on faders. Select an output channel, do some processing on the output channel. It's a very simple mixer to use, of course. But where there are some little tweaks that you might need to do for this setup are in routing and setup of the custom layer. So I'm going to show you how I might set it up. You might set it up differently. I've gone through the theory before about using tie lines or insert sends to get signal. But then we need to route it out. So let's have a look in here. Right. If I go to my IO patch, and then I go to USB audio, this is all the audio I'm sending out of the mixer over USB-B. So I've got USB-B connection over to my laptop here. And by default, it's patched like this. So 1 is 1, 2 is 2, etc. And then 17 and 18, you'll see, are left and right. And that's because the 17 and 18 channels that you patch here are also used for your stereo recording. So if you're recording to a USB stick and you just want to record the stereo left, right, and maybe just recording a gig, bouncing it down for stereo, that kind of thing, then just leave those as they are. But for this setup, I want to change them to actually be 17 and 18. Now you can see it's all offset, so I can still get 17 and 18, but quite honestly, I've got quite a small brain and I find that a little bit confusing. So I'm going to patch it 1-to-1 for my studio setup. So I can tap on any of these. So this is a nice little tip. So I can tap on any of those and I can use the function key just down here on the left and just below the screen on some of the other models to continue patching. And it will just do a +1 patch. So that way I can get a really quick 1-to-1 patch. So now I've got all 32 channels going out to Logic or going out to USB-B and then into whatever DAW or recording system I want to use. And you can see there I've got insert sends. I could change that to be direct outs. But for this, I'm going to record clean. So I'm going to go insert sends and hit apply. So I've applied that patch now. And I can still look at it in that screen, of course. And I'm just gonna make sure this is turned down. Hopefully you can yeah. Only because I can see a video playing in the background. I don't want you to hear me. I mean, once is enough. You don't want to hear me twice. So I've got 1-to-1 patching going on. Brilliant, magic. Let's bring back in Logic. So as I said before, I'm plugged into 12 with the audio signal that I've got here. I've added these audio tracks and I've added them in ascending order. In fact, do you know what? Let's just do a new one. Let's just do a new one. Just close. Close. No, don't save that. So I'm going to have a new audio session. I'm going to start at audio input 1 and click ascending so that they're patched 1-to-1. Audio output, I'm doing 31 and 32 just so that at the end of the board. On some of the other Q models, you like Q24, Q16, you might want to put that through to one of the stereo outputs. So check into your reference guide, user guide, to find out which you should patch to, which channels you should patch to for stereo, because that's a nice setup. I'm going to add in 24. Why not? And then I've got some for returns if I want to use them later. Cool. So I've got patch now 1-to-1. If I click on one of these, you can see. A quick output there. You can probably see here it says input 1, input 2 is input 2, 3 is input 3, and I can go all the way up to 12. Oh, and look, if I click on 12, I've got my magical signal. Hurrah! Brilliant. And that's kind of all there is to it. I can now just record that. I can hit record. If you're happy with whatever DAW you're using, you can mess around. You can do overdubs. Just make sure that you are recording the channel that you want, that you patch to on the mixer. So the number here, 12, corresponds to, I'm gonna have to click a couple of buttons, bear with me. The 12 that you see here at the top. So the one below is what's going to it. So if I wanted to, I could change that 12. Let's just change it to something else just to demonstrate. And now if I go back to the screen, I've got no audio because I've just unpatched it. So let's put that back to 12 before I forget. Right. The next part of this setup that I kind of covered very briefly before is to do with the DAW control and how you set that up. So I kind of got to the end of the session and there were lots of questions and I was rushing through it a little bit. So I'm sorry about that. I'm going to cover it now very quickly. So let's put this screen back on. Bear with me because it's all the way over here. And I'm going to open up my ANH MIDI control. So that's free download from the website. You can search ANH MIDI control. You can go onto our website and have a look through. You can, yes, it's got its own whole page. You can find it on the download section for most of the mixers that support it as well. In fact, all of the mixers that support it. And I am using MIDI ports. So I'm using the USB MIDI ports. I've got MIDI channel 2 here. Now I'll show you what that relates to. I need to get the camera first. So control MIDI. So I can change the MIDI channel of the mixer itself, and automatically the MIDI DAW control channel will change like so. So by default it's set on 1, which means that the MIDI DAW control channel is 2, which means that in DAW control, or MIDI control, used to be called DAW control, sorry. I need to select number 2. I'm going to do Mackie control here. So the protocol is a translation. It's Mackie control. And I've got my MIDI ports, Q32 MIDI out and MIDI in. That might seem confusing to you, but the output port is going to the Q32 MIDI in, and the input port is coming from the Q32 MIDI out. That's the way that's what it is. You can't select anything else anyway. I've got nothing else connected. So that's all set up and that's good to go. On my mixer, let's jump back, bouncing around. Stop singing, Keith, stop singing. Right, setup, control, custom layer. Now I've already set this up actually because I wanted to just test that beforehand. If I quickly go through and use my +1 again, you will see it would come like that as standard. There's nothing assigned. And maybe you use this for live stuff. Maybe you've got different channels set up on your custom layer. But one of the options right at the end is MIDI. So I know I'm just undone what I've done and done it again. Use my +1. Now these are just MIDI channels that are specific to the channel strip, to the fader. So you just need to select MIDI. You don't have to worry about setting CC messages or setting particular channel numbers. This will just work. So just set them all to MIDI, or as many as you want actually. But I'm going to set up all of them to MIDI, which means I've got 32 faders being used for DAW control and control going to Logic. Okay, so I just need to switch that now actually. So the next thing to do is just switch over to my custom layer, like so. That's where I tested it before. And now I've got, so it'll come up like that. These are all now MIDI faders. And if I look at my computer, you should be able to see here, when I move some faders here, you can see in my little video camera there, I'm moving some faders and I'm getting a little flashy box there. That's the input. So I can see that I'm getting MIDI coming in. And also if I moved something over here, the box would disappear. If I moved something here, can I do it? Can I do it here? Well, see, I'm seeing it. Oh, not quite. Right, if I move something there, it's got nothing. And that's because I haven't set up the virtual controllers yet. So I now have 4 virtual ports set up. And I can use those and assign 4 virtual surfaces. So control surfaces and setup. And new, install. And I've got Mackie control searched for already. So if I do Mackie designs, Mackie control, and I want, actually I want 4 of those. Can I add all 4 in one go? Maybe. Groovy, right. Get rid of those. Okay, so my first one is going to use output port, DAW control MIDI 1, input port, DAW control MIDI 2. So these are the 4 virtual ports. Don't use the Q32 MIDI out because that's just straight up CC messages, untranslated. What the MIDI control, the Allen Heath MIDI control app does is creates virtual ports and then translates the messages. So go with that, and I'll do number 2. And you can probably see in here in the background as I'm adding them, they're updating. So there we go, number 3. And number 4. Fabulous. But I've only used 24 channels. Right. So now you can see if I move these, I am moving. Oh, I've actually not offset them. That is a classic mistake, and that is brilliant because I can now show you what to do about that. So this is a problem that that people contact us about, actually, and I've just made exactly the same mistake. If you're getting repetitions, it's because I've got 4 virtual ports, and you can see I've stacked the control surfaces all together. So these colored bars on the left-hand side here are all stacked together. So depending on your door, you might need to offset them here. So I just need to go, the first one's not offset at all. So that's going to be 1, 2, 8. This one here is going to be, is it 8 or 9? Let's do 8. Yeah, 8. And then the next one's going to be 16. And the next one's going to be 24. Cool. Okay. So now what I should have, well, there we go, just off the screen. So now you see they're all separate, and I can control all of my faders in Logic. So now what I can do is make a recording. So I might be in, let's get rid of the Logic for a second. I might be here and I might be doing some recording, and I'm sending out all my channels individually, and I'm recording them all as audio into Logic. And then what I want to do is play back. So I can play back just to stereo channel for monitoring on the Q, so I can bring it back in and send it back out to people's headphones and whatnot, which is quite nice for when people are overdubbing. And I can just use a stereo channel for that. And if I need to adjust anything in Logic, I can just flip over to the custom layer, make some adjustments if I want to, and then just flip straight back in, and I'm back to recording. So it's a nice quick workflow. So that about covers what I wanted to there. Let's see what questions have come in so far. Rob Smith says, a question. Is it a simple task to copy a pile of scenes from a Q to an SQ? No. Unfortunately, because that would be kind of nice, and there are a lot of similarities, although there's a lot of similarities with when you're looking at it, and you can see I've got mixes and blue keys down the right hand side, and I've got cell keys, and everything looks the same there, and a lot of the operation is the same as well. They're actually really different inside in terms of the structure of the scenes, structure of the shows, and libraries and whatnot. So actually, unfortunately, you do need to rebuild stuff because there's so many more features in an SQ than there are in a Q. On a similar topic, though, I did see someone ask the other day about moving shows and scenes between different Q models. That does work because the structure is the same. And also we've built it so that it will do a best fit. So if you take a show or a scene from a Q16 and put it onto Q32, it will do probably, hopefully, what you expect, which is to fill up the first 16 channels and leave the rest default. If you took a show or a scene from a Q32 and put it on a Q24, it would basically just lop off the 8 channels that you don't have. So it kind of works well. Buenos dias from Mac. Oh no, Andre, I hope you're out there not on holiday, watching this on holiday. But hello, buenos dias. William will ask his favorite question. Okay, right, let's have a quick look at this one. Haven't read it fully yet, so hopefully it doesn't chop it off. I have a multi-track Alesis HD24. Yes. I would like the elegant way to send mix 1 to input 1 HD24, mix 2 to input 2 on HD24, and especially mix 5 and 6 to inputs 5 and 6 on the HD. So outputs, what outputs have you got and where can you send them? So on a Q, you can send your mixes out to USB or to physical outputs. So let's have a quick look at the options, and it's all in IO patch. So you can see that I've got Surface. I can send stuff out to Surface. Probably not going to use that here. Don't worry about an input. D-Snake outputs. So if I have a connected expander, I can send any of the mixes. That's the default setup right there, to XLR output sockets. I can send stuff to me there as well, and USB audio, which we've already touched on today. I can send mixes out to these as well. So I could just record straight to a computer, like I was just showing. There you can see at the end, I cycled through all of the inputs, and now I've got options for mixes at the end there. So it depends what input you'd like to use, but if you'd like to use the HD, you'll need to take analog outputs. Potentially, you could patch from the AES output, but that'd only give you 2. It wouldn't give you mixes 1 and 2 and 5 and 6 and the other ones. So you just have to take the analog out and plug it to an analog input. It would be the same as connecting up to any analog desk, actually. Okay, let's have a quick look. Polani's got an issue with the ZI10 effects. So the best thing to do if you've got any issues with your products is get in contact with your local distributor. There's a whole page on our website, which is Where to Buy, which has got a link straight from... There we go. So if you click on Where to Buy, it's being slow, you'll be able to find a full list of countries, and you'll be able to find your local distributor. They will be able to help you out and get that sorted for you. Roel's here. Roel. Hello. And Tito's here as well. Chom's here. Hello, Chom. And Henok's here as well. This is an interesting question. Okay, so Henok's saying, what is the advantage to connect the fader to a DAW? Can't we control it directly via iPad? Yes, so you can connect, you could. Here's a couple of things you can do. So you've got MIDI for the DAW control side of things that I showed you with the ANH MIDI control app. So that comes from the custom layer when you set them to MIDI. And what that's for is adjusting faders in the DAW and giving you hands-on control. So you've got motorized faders. That control goes both ways. So if I go back to my custom layer, get this one up and get this one up, I can move those faders, and it's moving the levels in my DAW. So let's go on number 12. Okay, here we go. And if I move faders over this side, I should also be able to see them. I haven't got it quite hooked up correctly because I haven't redone the patching. But I would see them moving on the desk. It means I've got a visual representation of what's going on in my DAW. So that's what the MIDI and the custom layer is for. You can control the faders remotely for the desk from the app, of course, and all of the. I should have led with that actually. We have got a new release just yesterday, I think it was, for QPad. So yes, you can control all functions of desk, all functions of Q remotely on an iPad. The other thing you can do is you can automate mixes in the desk via a DAW. So by recording the raw output instead of using the Alan Heath MIDI control app, you can record all of that raw data coming out, and all of the fader movements are spitting out MIDI data as well. And you can record automation and play it back through the desk and tweak it and do what you like with it. So there's a lot of different MIDI things that you can do, and a lot of different ways to control stuff. But hopefully that answers your question. Okay, yeah, if you've got any questions, pop them in. Otherwise, it's going to be a very short session. But let me try and read this question that came in before while you guys are thinking. Okay, wheel troubleshooting on live streaming of events via Mix 9 and 10, via USB to PC, and via OBS to YouTube also be covered in this Q&A. So this is from GDG on YouTube. We are still on firmware 1.93, and we are not keen enough to update to 1.97 because they're worried about making it inoperable or inoperatable. So the first thing is all the firmware that we release goes through rigorous testing. We would always recommend that you update to the latest firmware. We don't just throw out firmwares. We also don't do things like put out firmwares late in the week because we know people are out gigging over the weekend. So firmwares will go out as soon as possible, but usually at the beginning of the week where everybody here is around, just in case you've got any questions, anything's done something weird or anything like that. But all of it's gone through rigorous testing anyway, so that never actually happens. So don't worry about updating. That's the first thing, but it's not going to change anything here. So the from 193 to 197, there's not going to be any feature changes. That's just going to be maintenance stuff for things like different hardware support or fixing bugs even. So if anything, it's going to be better. Not that there are any bugs in 193. So to get into the Win10 Series Q Windows driver, v 4.86, yep, cool, and OBS ASIO 3.11, yep, cool. So that's ASIO. Principal digital live stream works nicely for 30 to 90 minutes, then gets overlaid by kind of digital distortion. Okay, so this is probably related to stopping it. It's not a strange and as format solution. Okay, so this is probably related to the USB connection itself. So if your computer is not set up for like real-time audio or not optimized for real-time audio, that can cause problems. If you've got a cable that is not supporting the speed fast enough, that can cause problems. If there's clocking, that can cause problems. In fact, there were improvements. Let me just double check. 1.5, so actually just updating might be the solution. So let me see. Q firmware, that might find it. Whacking and Alan as well. So if I go to any of the firmwares, this is a nice handy tip for you guys as well. I can go to my product pages and I can pick, which Q was it? I can't remember. No, the release notes are the same. Let's pick a Q32, so I've got one here. If I go to software, I'll show you this as well. And I go firmware. You can see here, to see what changes this version, please see the release notes. If I open up the release notes, you will see V195, changes to USB-B, improve stability with some computers and USB hosts. So there you go. Your answer, GGG, is to update your firmware. And hopefully all of your funny noises and whatnot will disappear. Cool. Let's see if there's any more questions. Otherwise, I'm probably going to wrap up. So get your questions in now. Jim, is there an app to control QPAC in Mac OS? That's an interesting question. There isn't, but there are. I'll pop this up. Here we go. For anybody reading. So there isn't, but there is a possibility in the future that we might do that. So if that's something that you want, definitely go and pop it onto the digital community, which is community.alan-heath.com, and just put it in there as a request. And things that get more requests obviously get more developer time and things assigned to them. Unfortunately, we do have a finite number of people here working every day trying to get you guys what you want. So we do have to prioritize. But I believe it is possible on the latest Macs, latest Mac OS, to rebuild iPad apps for it. So yeah, if that's something that you really want, go for it. Please do request it. It's a very similar question from Hedak here. Are you considering bringing QPad to Windows 11 store app? Very cool. We are not. That's slightly different. So that's different because it's not using the same build as for iPad for Mac OS. That would be a complete rewrite. So we're not planning to do that. However, there is a brilliant third-party solution, which is Mixing Station. So check that out, and that will run on Android and Windows and Mac as well. And yeah, we've worked with the developer on that one to give a solution for Android and PC and Mac and desktop. So that's another option. There is another way as well, which is via MIDI controls. So there are some basic controls solutions that we've got on our community. If you search for Q MIDI control, or if this is something that you're interested in, pop it in the comments and I will share a link after the stream. There is a MIDI control option where it's called Controller, and that was built in-house here just kind of for fun. But it's a really, really cool little app that you can load up, and you could have it running next to your DAW to change inputs and adjust your gain and stuff. So it's all on the computer if that's what you'd rather, or if like the Q is miles away for some reason in your studio. Cool. Let's see what else we've got. Is there any chance? For monitoring? No, unfortunately not. This is a fix. This is a fix of the DSP in the mixer. So a stereo aux is set to mono. Can we make it another aux? So stereo auxes on Q are always stereo auxes. You can choose not to pan, or you can do some fiddly stuff with panning to get to different mixes, if you like, out of it. But in terms of all the control messages and all the processing, all of that is either stereo or mono. So it's a fixed bus, fixed architecture on the outputs, I'm afraid. It was a very weird noise I realized I was making there, so sorry for that. Can I get vocal effects to come up with my Me ones from SQ? And is it possible to send an actual mix from SQ to Me one? Yes, I don't have an SQ here to show you. Today's session, I'm concentrating on Q, but I can kind of tell you how to do it on a Q. So the main thing, Jim, is to think about how you're sending to the effects and where the affected sound is coming back in. So if you want to send a send or a mix or an aux or a group out to your Mies, you can do so in the I/O page, and you can patch any of the mix outputs on the left-hand side to the Me output socket at the top. So that's on your outputs section. What you can also do for the effects side of things is patch effects returns. So when you're using the effects, you're summing everything together, sending it to an effects unit. I can show you here. So I've got effects sends on the blue keys on the right-hand side here. So I could send a bunch of channels to it. So I'll select go to my mono layer. I've selected effects 1. Maybe I want to send these channels to it. So 3 and 6 are going to effects 1. Now, if I go to my effects screen, the input, and you'll see we've got some levels here. The input on effects 1 is now coming from those 2 channels being summed together. The output from effects 1 is going to the effects return. So I go back on here, my second layer. I've got these 4 effects returns. And now I can send those wherever I like. And that's just the affected sound. That's just the wet sound. What I can also do on an SQ or on a Q is to patch those. So if I go to my setup and my I/O patch, so monitor on a Q is for the Me system. And maybe I'm using all those channels, and maybe I want to send it from, I don't know, here. Maybe I'll just send it from here, from 33 and 34. So what I can do is get the effects returns. So effects return 1 there, and do my +1 trick again, and I can hit apply. And now on the Me units, 33 and 34 on the Mies is going to be effects 1 return left and right. And that's just the wet signal. The other way of doing it, of course, is to mix those effects returns so you just have a single stereo pair, so you're not using up as much. So you can send them to a group, or you could send them to an aux. So you've just got a kind of summed, all your effects returns are summed into that aux, and then you send that aux to the Me system instead. And that way they can just have it on a single, the musician can just have it on a single key. So hope that helps. Ebenezer, it's after my telephone number. I'm afraid I can't give you my telephone number, but you can contact us here, or you can contact your local distributor, and we are around in support. I'm just see if I can find. Go back over here. I can go over to support on our. Oh, look, it's me. Yes, so you can contact us through here, contact us through our support system, set up a ticket, and also you can go obviously to the where to buy and find phone numbers and contact information for your local distributor. This is another interesting question. When is the minimum Android OS for QPad in an Android tablet? So QPad is only available for iOS, so just for iPad. If you've got Android, then the mixing station is the best option for control. So go check out Mixing Station. When are you going to teach us on Avantis? Says Evanita. I can't do Avantis. It's just too big and fancy. It's got too many channels. I look after Q and SQ, and you'll see me doing these live sessions on SQ and Q. For Avantis, look out for Jack's sessions. So you can go to alan-heath.com/events, and you can see all the upcoming sessions. In fact, I'm going to do it now. alan-heath.com/events. And wait for you to catch up and see on this page. Upcoming events. That's where we are now. That's what we're doing now. It says 20th of October here, Avantis and D-Live Q&A. So pop along to that session on the 20th of this month. So in a week, next week. Next week, Jack will be here doing a session. So tune in then, this time next week. Cool. All right. I think I've covered all the questions. Very, very last chance. If anyone has anything, I'll take a sip of water. Otherwise, I will be back in a couple of weeks' time with SQ. And if you need to contact us for anything, if you've got any questions at any point, just contact us through the support page. So support.alan-heath.com. Go to our website, click support, and we are always here and happy to help. Cool. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Take care, everyone. I enjoy mixing, enjoy making lots of noise, and I will see you again soon. Cheerio.